It's all going down Saturday for Trump's big, beautiful ceasefire. The White House confirming J.D. Vance is taking the lead in talks with the Iranian negotiators in Islamabad this weekend. Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, they'll also be there. This comes after President Trump made the mullahs cry uncle, agreeing to a 2-week ceasefire, but only if they open the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, the libs are still crashing out over that Trump truth, where he casually threatened that a whole civilization will die. But Caroline had to spell it out for him.
Why is it appropriate for the President of the United States to use that kind of language when talking about civilian targets?
Well, I understand the questions about the president's rhetoric, but what the president cares most about is results.
How can the president claim that America can ever have the moral high ground if he's threatening to destroy civilizations?
The president absolutely has the moral high ground over the Iranian terrorist regime, and for you to even suggest otherwise is frankly insulting.
What was your understanding of what he meant when he said, this civilization is going to be eliminated?
I think it was a very, very strong threat from the President of the United States that led the Iranian regime to cave to their knees and ask for a ceasefire and agree to reopening the Strait of Hormuz.
The Veep getting his pregame on before Saturday with some choice words for the Iranians, who claim the U.S. has violated the deal.
We have a negotiation that's supposed to start this weekend. That's the truth. I think it's a good first step. I think this comes from a legitimate misunderstanding. I think the Iranians thought that the ceasefire included Lebanon, and it just didn't. If Iran wants to let this negotiation fall apart in a conflict where they were getting hammered over Lebanon, which has nothing to do with them and which the United States never once said was part of the ceasefire, that's ultimately their choice. We think that would be dumb. I did see that tweet from Gallup actually just a couple of minutes ago. I actually wonder how good he is at understanding English, because there are things that he said that frankly didn't make sense.
Naturally, the Democrats' top leaders are jealous of the deal maker in chief. Listen.
A 2-week ceasefire is insufficient. We need a permanent end to Donald Trump's reckless war of choice.
Gas prices, worse shape. Iran's nuclear ambition, we're in worse shape. American credibility, we're in worse shape. This war is a colossal failure.
Okay, Dana, ceasefire, fragile, it's being described as.
So I know you've heard of the fog of war. Mm-hmm. I'm in the fog of ceasefire. I'm not exactly sure. Remember last week, was it last week you said we were intelligent if we said we didn't know? Mm-hmm. I'm really intelligent today.
Yes.
I do think Caroline had one of her best briefings today, because one of the things she did is say, I hear your question, I get it, I understand on the rhetoric, however, and then she went on, but she also pointed out that the original 10 points were a total deal breaker. And so I think J.D. Vance certainly has his work cut out for him, but he, in that clip we just played, I think he's up for it, right? He says, okay, I am clear on what the president wants. I am clear on such and such regarding Lebanon in particular. And I wanted to mention something on that. And I know that he knows this, but what he didn't say is that why does Iran say that this has to include Lebanon? Because they fund Hezbollah. And Hezbollah is the one that in southern Lebanon has been giving Israel the business, meaning militarily, like sending bombs and terrorist attacks forever. So that's why Iran wants it to stop. And that's why Israel is saying, oh, yeah, no, that is not going to stop. I said yesterday it felt like a blur. There's no doubt that militarily Iran is on its back heels. But that was like putting the NFL up against a high school team, right? Mm-hmm. They should be on their heels. And I just keep going back to the president saying he demanded an unconditional surrender from the regime. But, okay, so let's say we were never going to get unconditional surrender, but how far did we get down the way? I'm not exactly sure, and maybe we won't know until after this negotiation. However, is America and Israel safer today than they were before this because of taking away these capabilities of the Iranian military? I say yes. The one big sticking point is that the Strait of Hormuz is now something that Iran knows, oh, we know exactly how to hold the world hostage on this. So I'm not sure where that ends up. I don't like the idea of a toll. That's not good. We can't do that all around the world, but it does have to be open. I think they're going to say 12 ships get to go through tomorrow. It's usually 100 a day. So for Americans and people around the world looking for relief on energy prices, it's not going to come immediately. But again, I'm in the blur of the ceasefire, so that's a lot of words to say. I'm not sure what's going on.
Jessica, are you happy that there's a ceasefire? Are you mad that there's a ceasefire? Where do you stand?
I stand, I think, in reality that there is no ceasefire. I was watching coverage of this last night, flipping around, obviously watching your show, Jesse, and then perusing some other channels. And there were split screens between, White House announces ceasefire and missiles raining down on the Israelis. We knew that Israel was sending rockets back to Iran. We know what today has looked like in Lebanon with what the Israelis are doing there. It's one of the highest death toll days. So the ceasefire was a complete fiction. And what J.D. Vance is saying, and the White House now, Caroline Leavitt, that those 10 points were completely unacceptable, that's only because some of the biggest boosters of the administration came out and said, are you kidding me? Look at what you're agreeing to. Like Mark Levin, who has obviously been very close to this process. He took, what Fox and Friends had put up this morning and said this 10 points are a disaster. Last night, Larry Kudlow asked on social media, is this what we want? I mean, the deal, the 10 points that they sent in response to our 15 points allow them, as Dana said, to control the Strait of Hormuz and to decide what they charge. So that could be $2 million per tanker, and they split that with the Omanis, or then the FT reported this morning a proposal to do $1 for every barrel, and they want it to be paid in crypto. Which would be untraceable. And we know that because Donald Trump loves to be paid in crypto. No shutting down of the nuclear program. You can continue to enrich uranium. The leadership, not a problem. Can keep supporting those proxy forces. That's the Hezbollah problem. And then that sanctions would be lifted. We already took off $14 billion in sanctions. This would go even further. And Donald Trump would be the first president, certainly in recent memory, that didn't have economic sanctions on Iran. The linchpin story on this, and we have been tracing this particular plot line since the beginning, is what Jonathan Swan and Maggie Haberman reported yesterday in the excerpt of their book that comes out in a couple of months. And it's about a meeting on February 11th in the Situation Room, and Bibi Netanyahu was there. He was sitting at the table with our leadership, and he pitched them on this war. Donald Trump was interested. Pete Hegseth was interested. Everybody else, Ratcliffe, farcical. Rubio, it's BS. General Kane, standard operating procedure for Israelis, they oversell. Susie Wiles, we can't be dragged into another Middle Eastern war. Israel pushed us to do this. It doesn't mean that there weren't some good things that came out of it. But that first day, remember, and you guys said, I can't believe you're saying this, when Rubio came out and he said the truth to the gaggle of reporters that the imminent threat was not against us, it was something that was happening for Israel, is the core piece of this. And now we're stuck in it. And Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are seen as being very pro-Israel. And that's why people want to negotiate with J.D. Vance instead of with them, because they think that they may possibly be talking to someone who isn't just representing Israeli interests.
Yeah, I think if you continued to read the article, you'd see that the president wasn't interested in the regime change and the revolution. He was more interested in destroying the military and knocking out the leadership. Okay. Paul Morrell.
I find this to be a very dangerous meme. This idea that Israel is leaning Donald Trump around by the nose. He doesn't know any better. He didn't see Bibi coming. And all of a sudden now, a guy who doesn't want to listen to anybody on anything because he's the most powerful person in the world is falling for deceptions from one of our allies. Let's recognize something, and I think there's a false premise here. This is a ceasefire. It's not the deal. We're all talking about this as if, okay, now we have a deal. This is where we're going to go in it. They have these requests from the Iranians, and we're going to be parsing those. No. We just stopped bombing them. I mean, there's a historical precedent for this across the board. Everybody remembers the famous Christmas pause when World War I, they came out of the trenches, they all played soccer. The point is that they stopped bombing for a while, which, by the way, operationally works for us as well, because we can re-up all of our interceptors. We can look at our intel again. Donald Trump has a lot better intel than all of us around the table do. Let's remember something. When the time came to hit that meeting of the Ayatollahs, the Israelis had to signal intelligence, all right? Reportedly, and this is out, I'm not giving up anything, that they had penetrated the traffic lights, the traffic signals in Iran, in Tehran. And so they knew, they're all incoming to this meeting. But when the time came to say, what are we going to do? Our leadership turned to the CIA, looked at Ratcliffe and said, can you confirm this? And because it's the CIA, They didn't have to say, well, we got to look. They said, no, we have a very sophisticated program vis-a-vis Iran. Yes, it is on our best source. So that's just, I raised it as an example to show that there are things going on behind the scenes that they know that we don't. And they're not obviously going to talk about it too much. So there's a pause to see where we go. Now, relative to Hezbollah, let's remember something. They're a mafia, all right? They get 50% of their funding from Iran. Their equity is to survive. Iran is weak relative to Hezbollah because they got to fund them. And they don't want to lose them because that's their cat's paw. Hezbollah actually is in a better position here relative to Iran because they make money all over the world, including in our hemisphere. So the fact that all of this stuff is going on in Lebanon, color me completely unsurprised because Hezbollah just wants to survive. And it means hitting the Israelis, they're going to do it. Last thing I want to say, just to sort of button things up here. Operationally, let's look at something here. The objective was, at the end of the day, to secure the nuclear material. Because I know imminently, of course, Israel is closer to them, and of course, they're more at risk. But let's remember, they were developing ICBMs. They had a missile that went 2,000 miles that they weren't supposed to have. And everybody has kicked this can down the road from all of our presidents. So if you are willing, and I had ambivalence about this as well when the aircraft carriers were offshore. But if you're going to say we shouldn't have done this, I want to hear the solution. Because sometime between 3 and 5 years, maybe less, there's going to be an ICBM with a nuclear warhead with New York's name on it in Iran, and that's going to be a problem for the next president. And say what you want about Trump. He's the first guy who said, we're not going to cut some BS deal like Kerry cut in Austria, that, oh, yeah, there's a JCPOA, and we're not naive and all that crap. No, you are naive. They were just kicking it down range so that they didn't have to deal with it. So if you don't like it, fair enough. But that means you were willing to say, downrange, 3 years from now, we're going to confront this thing, and I have an answer to that then. And when you're dealing with a regime that is messianic and practically has death to America on their money, you better have a better answer than Donald Trump is a warmonger.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.